good man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
We're going to work with the Attorney General and for a short period of time, in the hope that he will reveal to us the entire Mueller report and all the underlying materials, and we'll go to court to get permission to have the 6E material. But if that doesn't work out, in a very short order, we will issue the subpoenas.
What does that mean in a very short order? I mean, you're willing to do that as soon as this week to serve the Justice Department with subpoenas?
A very short order. Beyond, I can't say how many days.
Are you willing to negotiate any middle ground in terms of redactions of the Mueller?
No.
Or not?
No. The committee must see everything, as was done in every prior instance. Obviously, some material will have to be redacted before it's released to the public to protect privacy, to protect the various rights. But the committee is entitled and must see all the material and make judgments as to what can be redacted for the public release by ourselves. We handle confidential material all the time. We have the facilities to do that. We make those judgments, and we're not willing to let the Attorney General, who, after all, is a political appointee of the president, make that substitute his judgment for ours.
Good for us. Yay! Happy Hump Day. It is a happy hump day. Yesterday was the deadline that the House Judiciary Committee had put on Bill Barr to release the entire unredacted Mueller report with all the supporting evidence attached. And he failed to do so. So this morning at the Judiciary Committee, there was a committee vote to authorize. Now, there's some language that you need to be familiar with here. Authorize subpoenas, not serve subpoenas. Okay? Remember that. Remember I said that because that is going to come in handy when you combat, Cult 45 members, when you combat Twitler fans, when you combat, Trump pansies. It is going to come in handy. We have not served Bill Barr with any subpoena. We have authorized the service of a subpoena at a date of our choosing. Okay. And the reason why is because, as Gerald Nadler said in that little clip there, we are going to allow Bill Barr to have a moment by himself to realize that covering up for Donald Trump is going to lead to nothing but heartache for this old man who only wanted a Time Warner merger with CNN. That's all he wanted. I mean, he's the greatest lobbyist that ever lived. He decided that he would put his name in to become Attorney General yet again by writing a 19-page memo telling Donald Trump and all the lawyers in the Joint Defense Agreement that he knows just how to deal with a damaging report. He knows just what to do. And if you pick him, he will get your back. He will protect you. He will, provide cover for you. Why did he want that? Why did he want to be Attorney General yet again? Because the Attorney General actually has oversight over the Antitrust Division inside the Justice Department. You see what I mean? Greatest lobbyist ever. Wanted that merger, was invested heavily in that merger, and the merger went through. Isn't that something? So here what you have is the President of the United States who has been overselling his own exoneration. I know that's shocking. It's crazy, right? Why would the president oversell his exoneration? Why would the president oversell anything? Don't you want to underpromise and overdeliver? Yes, if you're a legitimate businessman or if you're providing a legitimate service and or a product, you want to underpromise and overdeliver. But he sells crap. He is a fraud. And so have you ever seen Donald Trump do anything but oversell his golf prowess, oversell his education, oversell his university, oversell Trump vodka, oversell Trump Airlines, you see what I mean here? You see what I'm getting at? Trump steaks, right? Oversell The Apprentice. It was 67th in the ratings, but he sits there and tells you it's the most watched. This man is a fraud, so of course he's going to oversell. Now, essentially what we've been asked to do here, which we will not do, is take the word of a guy who Donald Trump personally hired to exonerate him, that the Mueller report exonerates him, which it specifically says it does not. It specifically says that they're not charging him with a crime, neither are they exonerating him of a crime. That's what it said. Now, you got to realize that there's not another word in the Mueller report that can do anything but hurt Donald Trump. Not another word. Barr already went through it. He already went through the entire 400 pages and cherry-picked everything that could remotely help Trump. And there weren't a lot of cherries. If life is a bowl of cherries, why are we in the pits? You see what I mean? Because there's not another word in the Mueller report that could be released that will not hurt Donald Trump. We don't know anything about what's in the Mueller report, except that Mueller did not, large caps, just like Twitler, large, N-O-T, did not exonerate Donald Trump. It's almost like, we always say the emperor has no clothes, and this guy is just, well, it's like Bill Barr is the guy that Donald Trump hired to say he is wearing clothes. He is. Well, he's not. And so today, a subpoena has been authorized for delivery to Bill Barr to produce the entire Mueller report. We are holding the subpoena. Okay? Now, listen, this is just incredible. You all know how this started. This started as a counterintelligence investigation. This entire counterintelligence investigation was started because George Papadopoulos was talking to a professor from Malta named Professor Misford, who, by the way, no one can find. What happened to Professor Misford? People think he's dead. Do you know that? That the man that Papadopoulos was talking to, who told George Papadopoulos that the Russian government was willing to help Donald Trump, and that the Russian government had dirt on Donald Trump. They had email, they had all kinds of stuff that they could provide to Donald Trump's campaign, right? And Papadopoulos, after having that conversation, sits down with an Australian man, gets drunk with him in London, and tells him about this Maltese professor, Professor Misfud, telling him this stuff about Russia wanting to help the president of the United States win an election that, nobody thought Donald Trump could ever win. Donald Duck would be more likely to win, right? So make a long story short, that Australian dude was an ambassador, and he goes and he tells his government, oh my God, you won't believe what the foreign policy team of this Trump campaign is being told by Russian operatives. And the Australians tell the Americans. They tell the FBI. Now, what's really interesting is that no one in the Trump organization, no one in the Trump campaign, no one in the Trump transition team, no one in Trump anything, nobody at the RNC, no one tells the FBI about these multiple offers from the Russian government. Okay? Nobody calls the FBI. Junior doesn't call the FBI. Rob Goldstone sat down with Don Lemon the other night. I don't know if you saw that. And he said the most ridiculous things. But one of the really, Rob Goldstone was the publicist for Emmett Agalarov, remember? And he's the one that wrote the email to Don Jr. saying that the Russian government wants to help Trump win the election and da-da-da-da-da. He says the reason he reached out to Trump Jr. is because he thought Trump was as clueless and as dumb as a rock. And that, he practically admits that Junior wouldn't even know what to do, so Junior would be the one to go to bring it to the campaign. Although then he says, I didn't even think Junior was involved in the campaign. Really? He didn't think he had pull with his daddy, right? Right? Yeah. That's...
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
I'd seen on TV what Putin had said about Trump, what Trump had said about Putin, and I'm entitled, I believe, to my own opinion in what was a private email from me, a private citizen, to Donald Trump Jr., who I'd met, I think, twice, who was a private citizen and whose father, against all odds, there was as much chance of Donald Duck becoming president as Donald Trump, in most people's opinion.
Okay, so I have to say this. I'm not a publicist. But I would know if I sent to an official campaign, an official candidate, and I'm mentioning a foreign government.
Really?
I would know enough, like, this could really get me in trouble, because if this actually happens, this is something that people turn over to law enforcement.
Yeah.
Two things. I did not know that. I did not even think that for 1 second. Am I saying that's good? No, I've never said that. But I didn't think that. And also, I'm trying to say this without sounding derogatory. I never considered Don Jr. really a part of the campaign. You may have seen it, again, it's in public testimony. I questioned whether I should send it to Mr. Trump via some method, whether it's his assistant. And then I decided to go way down on the food chain. And I chose Don Jr. because I'd met him a couple of times to run it past him enough to put him in touch with my client. So I didn't consider that I was sending it to the official campaign.
You didn't think he had enough juice with his own father
This is what I think. Since I think I was ignorant and oblivious, and I think if I had to guess, he was marginally more or marginally less ignorant and oblivious than I was. But there was a campaign chairman in that meeting.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to throw Paul Manafort under a bus, because he threw himself under his own bus. But I do think that people say all the time, how could you, Rob Goldstone, publicist from England who works in the music industry, not know this was potentially a crime? The chairman of the campaign was in that meeting.
Yeah.
and his son-in-law.
Shouldn't one of them have said,
yes,
if this is the case, you can't do this? And Rob Goldstone would have gone, oh, that's interesting, stop.
Well, that's kind of my point. What do you think? Should they have said that?
Well, knowing what I know now, yes.
Yes. He didn't think there was anything weird about the Russian government offering help to an American presidential campaign. Isn't that something, everybody? Live and learn. Live and learn that the... You know what he just admitted there in that clip? See, this is devastating stuff. This is really what I'm driving at. That it's going to be in the Mueller report several offers from the Russian government, and I'll bet you anything. What the conclusion is in the Mueller report is that the Russian government saw how completely incapable and incompetent the Trump campaign really was, and they told them, "We got this. Just you go over there." And you stay there, and that's why there's no reach around to the Russian intelligence operatives that have all been indicted by Mueller, because they said to the Trump campaign, "We got this. You are too stupid for words. You will just mess up what we can do for you. So you stay over there." And then Idiot Boy gets on the TV and he says, "Russia, if you're listening." And screws them yet again, okay? But what's in that Goldstone clip, that is worse than the Lester Holt clip. Because what Rob Goldstone is admitting to, well, ignorance is no defense. Remember that. You ever say, get pulled over for a speeding ticket in a school zone? You're supposed to do 20 and you're doing 35 and you think that's pretty slow, and then they pull you over. They go, you're 15 over. You go, I didn't know that I had to drive 20 miles an hour. There's no sign here. I didn't know. Ignorance is no excuse, ma'am. Here's your ticket. Go to comedy traffic ticket school. Yeah. Well, ignorance is he's sitting there saying, I did not know that I couldn't offer to Trump, the Trump family, foreign help from an American adversary, from Russia. I didn't know that. So what I did, he says he actually thought about how to communicate to the Trump campaign this information that the Russians, the government, was pro Donald Trump's candidacy and wanted to help him win. That's what he admits that he sent, right? And so he's telling Don Lemon, because he's a moron, that he thought about who's the dumbest person. Who's the most clueless person around Donald Trump? Okay, and then he selected Junior. And then, remember, Rob Goldstone was at that Trump Tower meeting, and so was the Agararovs, and so was Rinat Akhmetshin, who's another oligarch, and so was Natalia Veselnitskaya, who was working for the Russian government and admits now that she was a Russian asset, right? And she's at that meeting, and she's trying to talk in code to them, and Manafort, who obviously knows about campaign rules and stuff. He's in the meeting. And Don Lemon says, don't you think, shouldn't Manafort have said so? I mean, shouldn't everybody have called the FBI? I mean, they're running a campaign. They are, aware that you can't take a foreign government's help here. And they're all in this meeting. You got Jared, and you got Junior, and you got Manafort, and you got Flynn, and you got Rinat Akhmetshin, and you got Natalia Veselnitskaya, who's in town working on the Prevezon case, which was a Russian money laundering case that was being fought on behalf of Vladimir Putin himself. He's the one that took all the money from Bill Browder's company and, said that Bill Browder owed $230 million in taxes because Bill Browder was trying to dissolve himself of Russian business ties. He felt that Russia was just about to, do something to him. And he wanted out of Russia. So they started selling all of the assets he had in his hedge fund that were related to his Russian hedge fund. And he made money. He made a lot of money. He made like $1 billion. And the Russians said, you owe $230 million in taxes. And he paid it. Bill Browder paid it. And Vladimir Putin didn't want that money to go to the Treasury. He wanted that money for himself. It was a shakedown. And Bill Browder paid the $230. And then Vladimir Putin was laundering the $230 million. Well, Bill Browder's accountant and lawyer, Sergei Magnitsky, got hip to all this. And he tried to tell the Russian government that somebody had raided the Treasury. Somebody had stolen the $230 million that Bill Browder paid. Turns out it was Vladimir Putin, but Magnitsky had no way of knowing that. And so he reported it, and Magnitsky ends up dead. Just like we can't find Professor Misfoot. Isn't that something? He's nobody knows what happened to him. Nobody's seen him since, we did that trip upstate New York. Nobody's seen him. Oh, hey, look, a wing. A lung. Yeah. So Goldstone is actually admitting that the Russian government offered help. He knew that. And he was looking for the dumbest person in the Trump organization to send that information to. And he sent it to Junior and actually attended the meeting. And at the meeting, he sees the campaign manager who doesn't call the FBI either. Oh, my God. So what I'm saying to you is there can't be another word in the Mueller report. We've only gotten, 72 words, I think, is the actual count of the words that were taken in the middle of sentences. We don't know if it's the beginning. Well, we know it's not the beginning of a sentence. We don't know if it's near the end of a sentence. We don't know if it's half of a sentence. Is it a third of the sentence? Is it a quarter of a sentence? We don't know. But we know it's been cherry-picked for the best stuff. And Trump has oversold his exoneration, which has peeved a lot of people who seem to want to protect the Russians.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Wolf, I'll tell you why I don't give this Attorney General the benefit of the doubt. If he came to the job clean, without any history in this investigation, I would say yes, give him the benefit of the doubt. But he didn't. He wrote a 19-page legal memo, which was basically a job application saying, if you pick me for your AG, I will have your back on the obstruction of justice case. And that's exactly what he's done. During his Senate confirmation, he would not commit even to following the advice of ethics lawyers. You cannot blind yourself to that conflict of interest. So no, I'm not prepared to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm prepared to hold him to his commitment during the confirmation that he would be as transparent as law and policy would allow. He's not doing that. If he were doing that, he wouldn't be saying, I'm going to redact all the grand jury material. He would be saying, consistent with my promise, I'm going to go to the court. I'm going to ask for court permission to release this material.
Yeah.
That's what he would be doing, but he's not. And I think it raises profound questions about what's in that grand jury material and why is there an effort to withhold it from Congress.
But does it really make much difference if you wait 2 weeks and see what he does?
Look, I think their intention is to play rope-a-dope, to drag this out along with every other request. But the fact of the matter is we can tell already from the fact that he has given us his own summary rather than a summary that may have been prepared by Bob Mueller. We can see where he's coming from. The fact that he is not seeking court permission to release the grand jury material tells us what we need to know. He is not trying to be as transparent, and I think quite the contrary.
It is interesting, isn't it? I mean, all the Hillary Clinton email investigatory materials, there were 800,000 pages of them, were all given to Congress. Isn't that amazing? And the Starr report was given to Congress completely and utterly unredacted. And then Congress was in the middle of a discussion about what to redact from the Starr report when the Starr report went to print and became a novella, became a piece of porn, became a book. I mean, this is just unbelievable. And as far as this grand jury material, I just want you to see here, this is from the congressional, here, I'll show it to this camera. We have so many cameras now, I don't even know where I'm going anymore. Which one, this one or that one? I could go to this one. We got to get a docu-cam. Remember, you told me to do that, and I did not do that. I'll give you a minute. Brett's trying to figure. There you go. See, look how cool that is. All right, so this is from the Congressional Research Orifice. Okay, you could see that right there. This is actually the legislative attorney at the Congressional Research Orifice that informs all legislative debates since 1914. Just saying. And this particular explanation, it's not an opinion, it's an explanation of Rule 6E. What is 6E? Remember, I kept telling you, you're going to need to know 6E. 6E is going to become everything in your whole life now. 6E is grand jury material. Now, the grand jury is a secret operation. You know, that's a conversation for another day. But that's what it is. And the witnesses are given this secrecy protection so that they may speak very frankly about everything that they ever knew, and they're not represented by an attorney. As you know, the witnesses are in there by themselves. There are no attorneys allowed in the grand jury. The attorney that is in the grand jury is the prosecutor. This is why they say a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich. It's because you're only getting one side of the story. Now, that said, the Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure, which is Section 6E, that enshrines all the traditional rules of the grand jury, and secrecy is established in Rule 6E. But there are exceptions to Rule 6E, and some of those exceptions we've actually lived through. The Starr report was one of those. The Nixon tapes was another one of those. We have seen grand jury transcripts. We have seen, and here are some of the exceptions. And I'm not going to read you the whole thing. I went through it, and as you can see, you know, I've pre-read this for you, and I've underlined what applies here. Now, of course, what they first recognize is that the Constitution reigns supreme, no matter what rule we're talking about. That if a rule or a law exists and it's violative of the Constitution, it cannot stand, right? And so the role of Congress, the oversight role of Congress, the ability of Congress to know whether or not the president is abusing his powers, know whether or not the president is obstructing justice, know whether or not a president is, committing any crime at all that might be impeachable, a misdemeanor, a high crime, a crime against his own country, whatever it is, right? Right? Okay. That reigns supreme. And so, obviously, they had to deal with that in Rule 6E. And one of the exceptions in Rule 6E, it says, as such, according to these courts, Rule 6E's enumeration of circumstances in which a court may authorize disclosure of matters occurring before a grand jury does not by itself eliminate the court's power to address situations that the rule does not describe. courts have found they possess inherent authority to permit disclosure of grand jury materials beyond the text of Rule 6E. Nonetheless, generally cabined the exercise of such authority to special circumstances. Most frequently, and this is what's going to grab you by the, the whatever, like Joe Biden would grab you by that body part. Okay? Here. Most frequently, this is where an exception is made, quote, where there is significant public interest in proceedings that have already concluded. Okay? There is significant public interest in these proceedings. Have they already concluded? According to Bob Mueller, no. The grand jury is still operating robustly. This could be the reason why a subpoena had to be issued. Not served yet, but authorized. Because while 6E has an exception that will allow for the disclosure of grand jury materials, quote, where there is significant public interest in proceedings, perhaps they have not concluded, because that's the rest of the sentence. See how sentences matter, like a whole sentence matters? Where there is significant public interest in proceedings that have already concluded. Well, we know half of that has been satisfied. There is extreme public interest in those proceedings. Have the proceedings concluded, or does the grand jury continue to operate robustly? That's the question. Now, I will tell you, in Watergate, the courts actually said there was significant public interest, and that just because 6E said that the grand jury had to be secret, the public interest overrode that rule, and so they made an exception, and they actually released. Same thing with the Starr report. So they're going to try and bamboozle you with, oh, well, those were independent counsels, and this is not, or those were special prosecutors, and this is an independent counsel, or vice versa. I always get those two confused, right? And the rules are different, and da-da-da. Yeah, well, the Constitution hasn't been shredded, has it? No. So Congress still has oversight roles to play. Congress is still, and of course, if you follow their legal arguments where the president can't be indicted, a sitting president can't, then the only remedy is the constitutional one. And what is that? Impeachment. Hello, Congress. See what I mean?
Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
I would just ask the fundamental question, why are we here? Seems to me we're here because the Mueller report wasn't what the Democrats thought it was going to be. Huh. In fact, it was just the opposite. What did the Attorney General tell us that the principal finding of Mr. Mueller's report were? No new indictments, no sealed indictments, no collusion, no obstruction. On the
Mr.
question,
Jordan, will the gentleman yield?
I only got a little bit of time because
I only have a short question. You made reference to the Mueller report. Have you seen it? Because we haven't.
No, I've seen the principal findings from the Attorney General.
Well, would the gentleman yield? Give me a break.
Seriously, dude. What you saw was a cherry-picked version of a 400-page report that probably has 1 million pages of exhibits and testimony that was funneled into a 4-page memo that put the best light that it could on what's in that report. And even in the best light, even in the most glaring, disinfecting light, Bill Barr says in his report that this did not exonerate the president. So shut up. You've not seen the report. Everyone that's on Twitter, everyone that's attacking people who want to see the report, whatever happened to curiosity? Whatever happened to transparency? The transparency people, the people who swear to you that, you can't trust anything around you. You can't trust, Valerie Plame, and you can't trust, the International Atomic Energy Agency that said there were no weapons of mass destruction. You can't trust Scott Ritter, the UNSCUM. Remember that? UNSCUM. What an unfortunate name that is. But now that you think about President Trump, unscum sounds good to me. Whatever that disinfectant is, that's what I want. They were all out there saying there were no weapons of mass destruction. Oh no, you can't trust this and you can't trust that. And whatever happened to the transparency people? Suddenly they're frosted glass, aren't they? You can't see a damn thing. Nothing for you to see here. Move along, move along. No, Mueller has to testify, and we all know it.
I think it's inevitable Bob Mueller's going to have to testify before Congress. I would think that he will probably be needed before more than one committee. We'll have an interest in his testimony or others on the issue of the counterintelligence findings. And the Judiciary Committee, maybe the Oversight Committee as well, might have an interest in other aspects of investigation. But in the Intel Committee, we have a statutory requirement that the intelligence community, FBI, brief us on any significant counterintelligence or intelligence activity. And it's hard to imagine something that rises more to that level than this investigation.
I mean, does anybody think that this government's national secrets or the security of this government or the reporting of untoward overtures to this government by what they like to call bad actors has been duly reported to the various law enforcement agencies, the National Security Agency, the CIA, the DIA, the FBI, for God's sake? Does anybody believe that Donald Trump is reporting anything that's, putting our national security at risk? Like, let's say, his son-in-law getting a security clearance over the objections of the intelligence community, law enforcement, his own chief of staff, his own White House counsel. Does anybody think Donald Trump's reporting this stuff? Hell no. Does anybody think that it was interesting and weird that a Chinese national yesterday with a laptop, 4 cell phones, and a thumb drive with malware on it was able to breach all of this Secret Service protection around Mar-a-Lago yesterday? And that, I put the actual complaint for this. I'm sure you heard the story of the Chinese woman arrested yesterday at Mar-a-Lago. She, the headline was Chinese woman charged with illegally entering Mar-a-Lago. Do you know that there is no such thing as illegally entering Mar-a-Lago? Because if there was, law enforcement would be arresting everybody and Mar-a-Lago would cease to function. The biggest gangsters in the world are at Mar-a-Lago. Conversations with, you saw Donald Trump at dinner with, President Xi. And they were plotting and planning, a retaliatory attack, and all the reporters, people were taking, cell phone photos of sensitive material that was, please, Mar-a-Lago would cease to function if they went and arrested people that are doing illegal things at Mar-a-Lago. So they're saying, well, it's part of the Secret Service's job to keep shady characters that want to do us harm out of Mar-a-Lago, then shut down Mar-a-Lago. Because Donald Trump lives there. They don't have a list of the membership at Mar-a-Lago. Isn't that interesting? Secret Service says, well, it's a private club and we don't know who the members are, and we don't know. So, she gave us, what happened here? This is Cindy Yang's deal. You remember Cindy Yang, the former massage parlor owner that, what's his face, from the Patriots, went, Bill Kraft. Robert Kraft. Robert Kraft goes and he gets a happy ending. He gets a rub and tug, right? And it becomes like, news. And then we find out that those spas were owned by another Chinese national who since sold them, but she's still, now she's in the PR business, and all she's got on her Instagram page are pictures of her with various Trumps, the sons and the daughters and the whole administration and Trump himself. Well, it turns out that this Cindy Yang was put, and I don't know why the Secret Service couldn't translate this little document that this woman had in her possession yesterday, but it was an invitation to go to Mar-a-Lago for a Chinese-American friendship dinner. Well, guess what was scheduled on that day that Cindy Yang was doing at Mar-a-Lago? A Chinese-American friendship dinner. But she canceled it. And apparently this Chinese national with malware on a thumb drive and 4 cell phones was trying to attend it. And she had an invitation except the Secret Service is telling us they didn't know who the invitation was from because they can't translate Chinese. Okay, here's a little instruction for you. Law enforcement officials at Mar-a-Lago. You scan the document into your computer, and then you go on Google Translate. You see there's this little menu on the top right-hand side of Google. You'll see a little menu there. Click on that, and then when it says more, click on that, and then you'll see this little icon. Almost looks Chinese with a T on it. You know what that is? It's a translator. And you could translate anything you want, including documents. It's just amazing. I do it all the time. People tweet me in various languages, and I, translate those tweets, and I respond in their native tongue. Don't you love native tongue? Why are we ignoring native tongue? There's nothing better. So anyway, they said they couldn't translate. It was an invitation from Cindy Yang to a guy named Charlie Lee. And she, this woman that was there yesterday, who got into Mar-a-Lago, was trying to tell them, I was invited by Charlie, and here's the invitation. And they said, oh, well, we couldn't. This is our whole national security apparatus under this president is busted. It's broken. It's in the trash heap. This Mueller investigation was a counterintelligence investigation because we know that the president does not care to protect sensitive information from foreign governments. We know that. People end up dead when you act that way. But obviously, that is what's going on. You know, AOC yesterday, she's on the oversight committee. She was like stunned to find out about all of the use of WhatsApp to transmit national security by Jared. And we issued a subpoena yesterday. Subpoena was issued by Elijah Cummings on the security clearances that were given in violation of every warning that could possibly go off. People's hair on fire, lights blinking red, whatever you want to call it, right? About 25 people in the new Trump administration saying, oh no, these people should never have national security clearances. Here's what she said.
Folks are suggesting that we are conducting foreign relations with folks with security clearances via WhatsApp. I mean, every day that we go on without getting to the bottom of this matter is a day that we are putting hundreds, if not potentially thousands of Americans at risk. I mean, really, what is next? Putting nuclear codes in Instagram DMs? This is ridiculous. We need to get to the bottom of this. And in order to do that, we have to issue subpoenas because people in this administration are not cooperating.
Our government, at least the executive branch and half of the legislative branch, has ceased to function. You know, we always talk about 3 co-equal branches of government and checks and balances. Yeah, well, the Senate is absent and the White House is a disaster.
We saw on Sunday a 4-page summary of a 700-page report. The 700-page report is a summary of 2 million pages of documents of raw evidence. In the 700-page summary of the 2 million pages of raw evidence, there is undoubtedly some evidence of a conspiracy and some evidence of obstruction of justice. Just not enough evidence. I'm thinking the way I believe Congressman Schiff is thinking, according to Attorney General Barr, not enough evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the standard. Prosecutors ethically cannot bring a charge unless they believe they can prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. So once the 700 pages comes out, and this is my criticism of the Attorney General, he shouldn't have even tipped his hands on this, but once the 700 pages comes out, the Democrats will have, and other Trump opponents will have a field day with what is in there. If there were no evidence of conspiracy and no evidence of obstruction, the Attorney General would have told us so. He didn't.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's Fox freaking News, okay? That's amazing that they're actually, because they know that, the president watches the TV a lot, right? And so they're trying to tell him, stop overselling your innocence, because this report clearly cherry-picked, and still it actually contains the words, did not exonerate. This man has seen all the words from the Mueller report that benefit him. The rest of the words in the Mueller report are not going to benefit him. Now, I tell you, James Comey was interviewed by Christiane Amanpour, and he's saying the same thing. This was a counterintelligence investigation. There are still so many questions we don't know the answer to. Now, Comey is giving Bill Barr the benefit of the doubt here, so this is sort of even-handed.
You are given to quite dramatic interventions. Right after Mueller dropped his report and we heard the summary from the Attorney General, you did tweet a pretty interesting picture of yourself in the woods, and you said, so many questions. That was more than a week ago. Do you feel you've had those questions answered in any more detail in the intervening days?
No. Maybe with the exception of my question about will we get full transparency. I think I see more promising signs of that in the recent letter that the Attorney General sent to Congress.
He says that he's going to put it out with some redactions by mid-April. And the thing is, he's also talked about these redactions, and he says that he'll redact secret grand jury testimony, material the intelligence community identifies as potentially compromising sensitive sources and methods, material that could affect other ongoing matters, information that would unduly infringe on the personal privacy and reputational interests of peripheral third parties. Democrats fear that there'll be an attempt to redact issues and elements that might damage the president or be uncomfortable for him. From your perspective, do you have confidence that enough of this will come out to satisfy everybody who wants to see it?
I can't say for sure until we see it. Those are reasonable concerns for Democrats to have. But Bill Barr, our Attorney General, deserves the benefit of the doubt. Give him a chance to show us what he feels like he can't show us. I have to imagine that former Director Mueller wrote the report with an eye towards it being public someday. So I can't imagine a lot needs to be cut out of it. But let's wait and see. The Attorney General deserves that chance.
Yeah, well, he's got a chance. Like I said, today they issued a subpoena. They did not serve the subpoena on Bill Barr. They authorized a subpoena. They're holding the subpoena. They want to see if Bill Barr is going to do the right thing and not redact. I mean, when they say, sources and methods could be really sensitive intelligence information. What is Bill Barr going to publish? Jared Kushner's WhatsApp? Is he going to publish Junior's Instagram account? Because that's where the direct message. I mean, Roger Stone. He goes on trial November 5th. Roger Stone. Everything was direct messages and Twitter, and I mean, these people are using what is basically open sources to do all kinds of nefarious things that jeopardize the intelligence of the United States of America. This whole clearance thing. I mean, everybody understands that these clearances were given to people who didn't qualify, who didn't meet the threshold that is set for security clearance issuing. Not everybody gets a security clearance, okay? I mean...
Well, I think it depends on the process. Did they go through the full security clearance process? Were there any flags raised? And were there clearances? Did that process get overridden through the proper channels?
Republicans are saying this is not even anywhere near as bad as a Hillary Clinton email situation.
Oh my
What's
God.
your response?
Well, it's like I said in committee, we're getting reports that there's communication happening with Saudi officials via WhatsApp. I mean, like I said in there, what's next? Instagram DMs? Like, this is completely insecure. And the issue with that, as we saw in the lead up, to so many attacks and so many issues, is that when we have insecure channels of communication, anything can get hacked. And if we don't know what hostile forces know about us, we are putting thousands of lives at risk.
Do you really think Mitch McConnell understands what a Instagram DM is? Like, if I if I went to Turtle Man and I said, you know, and it's interesting because Donald Trump's nickname for Adam Schiff is Pencil Neck, which is so grown up. But have you ever seen a neck missing, completely like MIA? That's Mitch McConnell. He doesn't have one. I mean, there's no there. So you want to talk necks? Fine, let's talk necks. If Turtle Man ever tried to look at Instagram and post something, do you think he could do it? No way, right? Okay, so now if he tried to look at Instagram and send a DM, or do you think he even knows what a DM is? Do you think he thinks a DM is like something he put in the Cologuard box? Do you think? I think that's what he thinks it is. How could these people be protecting the United States of America if they can't figure out Twitter, if they can't figure out Instagram, if they can't figure out WhatsApp? And they can't. So, I mean, it's good to see some, youth, some smart girl from Boston University, educated girl from Boston University who, ran for Congress by knocking. Oh, I have to tell you the story. This is just so disgusting. So I went to a dinner party, which I hate. I just hate it. With people I did not know, okay? It was friends of a friend. Apparently Howard had done a favor for somebody, and they wanted to thank Howard for doing this favor for this person, and they had a dinner party. So I had no idea who these people were, and all I know is they're on Palm Beach, okay? They're living on Palm Beach, which is like, it's the, Palm Beach is where Mar-a-Lago is. West Palm Beach is where I live. Okay, it's like if you're in Texas, if you're in West Texas, it's the difference between Odessa and Midland. So Odessa is where the oil field workers live, and Midland is where the oil field rig owners live. See what I mean? So we're like the labor for Palm Beach. Anyway, so we cross the bridge. You cross the bridge and you're on the island. Okay, and so we go to these people's houses and blah 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 and this and that. And I swear to you, they're serving, what do you call it, appetizers and drinks. And so they're sitting there and they're talking about their political persuasion. And they say, this new girl from, where is she from? Brooklyn or Queens? She's from the Bronx. Okay. So this girl, I don't know her name. It's like, Cortez or Cortana or Cortisone, or I go, you mean Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Yes, her. I don't like her. So now I'm thinking to myself, they don't know her name, but they have a very definite opinion about her. Isn't that going to be interesting? So just hang on, Rand, hang on. You only have to get through another hour or two of this, right? And then they tell me the reason why they don't like her, she's too young. She's too young. They don't know her name. They don't know what she's about. They just don't like her age. Oh.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
It started as a counterintelligence investigation, but every counterintelligence investigation potentially has a criminal element, because if you discover someone was working with a foreign adversary to damage the United States, that's an important intelligence finding, but it could also be evidence of a crime, so they run together. And so it was important to do, important to look at, both from what should we know about what the adversary is doing, but also were Americans involved. And remember this. There was a massive effort by the Russians to interfere in this election,
yes,
to hurt one candidate and to help the other.
Right.
The good news about what the Attorney General said is that's been verified. There was such a thing. It wasn't a hoax. What we had to figure out starting in the summer of 2016 was, are any Americans part of that? And we had good reason to think that. So the counterintelligence investigation had to be done, apparently reached important conclusions. I don't know what they say about the continuing threat. Look, Russia succeeded in 2016 beyond its wildest dreams in its effort to damage our democracy, especially. They'll be back, especially given that the president not only hasn't criticized their effort, right, he's denied it. I saw some poll that a majority of Republicans don't think the Russians intervened in the election in 2016. That's crazy stuff. But that tells the Russians, you'll get away with it in 2020, so they will be back.
They will be back. They are back. There's no question that, the president of the United States stood on a stage in Helsinki and said, I don't see why Vladimir Putin would have done that. I mean, he denied it very strongly. He denied it very forcefully. He denied it very quickly. I believe, this is a sick administration. There's no question. It's off the hook. And he just can't help himself. He's a cheater. He cheats, okay? There's a sports writer. I played you a little bit of him yesterday, Rick Riley. He wrote a book called Commander in Cheat about golfing with Donald Trump. Okay, he's a sports writer and he's golfed with Donald Trump. And, he says the man just can't help himself. He just cannot stop cheating. Well, he cheated in the election, and Russia helped him cheat. Now, whether or not Donald Trump, let's not say it was unsolicited, because we saw him ask for help. We also heard Don Jr., we read his email that said he would accept help from the Russians. If it's what you say it is, I love it, as a response to Rob Goldstone's email saying the Russian government prefers your father and wants to help your father win. Right. So we hear these people after the fact now that the thing is closed, they're all writing books. Papadopoulos has a book, and this one's got a book, and that one over there's got a book. Everybody's writing a stinking book, right? And they're all admitting that multiple offers came from the Russians. I think the conclusion is going to be that the Russians said, you just stay out of it because you'll screw it up. We saw what you do. OK, we saw how you're running this thing. You just stay over there. We got this. But he cheated. Obviously, Donald Trump cheated because he's a cheat. That's what he is. He's a lying cheat. Did you hear what he lied about yesterday? I'm sure you've seen this a million times. I wasn't even, but it's just so bizarre. It's just so strange. Fred Trump's birth certificate, Donald Trump's daddy, his birth certificate is online. He was born in the Bronx, where AOC is from, actually. It's the provinces, everybody. It's the provinces. Now it's a small part of Germany, the Bronx. His birth certificate is online. He was born in 1905 or 6, I think. Okay, I looked at it this morning. And Donald Trump just can't stop lying. He was talking about NATO. How he even gets to the lie is really a study in psychosis. It's a study in narcissism. It's a study in that, the duty to warn psychiatrists tried to tell you. They tried to tell you. But he's talking to the NATO Secretary General in the Oval Office yesterday, which was just off the hook. We played a little bit of it yesterday, but it was just craziness. And he sat there and said that Germany isn't paying their fair share. Germany. And he loves Germany because that's where his father was born.
Germany, honestly, is not paying their fair share. I have great respect for Angela, and I have great respect for the country. My father is German, right? Was German. And born in a very wonderful place in Germany. And so I have a great feeling for Germany.
Yeah, it's called the Bronx. That's the great place in Germany. And in The Art of the Deal, that Tony Schwartz book that Tony Schwartz wrote, in The Art of the Deal, he said his father was born in Sweden. Sweden. And that's a lie that his father used to tell because he didn't want to tell Jewish business associates that he was of German descent. So Donald Trump has now switched his father from being from Sweden, when he's really from the Bronx, to now he's from a beautiful town, a beautiful little hamlet, a beautiful little province in Germany called the Bronx. The old country. Now, if people are going to lie and if people are going to make up where they came from, Elizabeth Warren gets off scot-free, number one. And number two, I suggest all refugees from the Northern Triangle countries, from Guatemala, Nicaragua, and El Salvador, start saying that they're coming here from Norway. Trump likes Norway. Not one of those S-hole countries, okay? We should have a contest called Lying or Stupid. He spent yesterday misstating where his father was from, and then he went on this. I mean, you know how he couldn't say anonymous? One night he was at a rally, and you know how one day he was his dentures were like, I don't even think he wears dentures, okay? I think those are veneers, but whatever. He had like a bad case of cotton mouth, and he just couldn't talk. He was America, right? Remember that? I mean, he has these problems with words. Words and Donald Trump don't get along well. And yesterday, he started talking about the oranges. The oranges. And Scott was, editing the videos pre-show, right? This was all going on like 5 minutes before we went to air yesterday. And so he's cutting up all the stuff that we had picked out the night before and the morning of yesterday's show. And then all of a sudden, he does this Oval Office press spray. Ew. With the Secretary General of NATO, and he can't speak. He's trying to talk in front of the Secretary General of NATO about the Mueller report, and he's trying to say he wants to get to the beginning. He wants to know what triggered it. Why he doesn't know, I don't know. But he can't say the word origin. Okay? And so he just starts talking about oranges.
I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings of that investigation. You look at the origin of the investigation, where it started, how it started, who started it, whether it's McCabe or Comey or a lot of them. Where does it go? How high up in the White House did it go? You will all get Pulitzer Prizes, okay? You're going to all get Pulitzer Prizes. You should have looked at it a long time ago, and that's the only thing that's disappointing to me about the Mueller report. The Mueller report, I wish, covered the oranges, how it started.
Does he suffer from dementia? Oh, hell no. He doesn't suffer with anything. The American people suffer. And that's his plan, everybody.
Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
Covered. This is an un-Republican thing for me to say, because a lot of times they say, no, the lower 25%, they can't afford private. But universal health care. I am going to take care of everybody. I don't care if it costs me votes or not.
Are you going to make sure that people with preconditions are still covered?
Yes.
And there's going to be a period, if you repeal it and before you replace it, when millions of people could lose.
We're going to do it simultaneously. It'll be just fine. It's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that health care could be so complicated. The Republican Party will soon be known as the party of health care. I mean it 100%. I understand health care now, especially, very well. A lot of people don't understand it.
Yeah, and Mitch McConnell doesn't either, because Mitch McConnell came out today and said, we're not doing comprehensive health care reform. I don't know why he's face-planting his own victory that he believes he got with the Bill Barr summary of the Mueller report. He also said he's not doing comprehensive immigration reform. And Mitch McConnell also, the turtle, stuck his little head out today. And he said, yesterday Donald Trump said he wants to close the border and he doesn't care. Trade is not as important as national security, which is so not protected if you're using an insecure telephone, which he does. If your son-in-law is doing foreign policy on WhatsApp, which he is. If they are, using Facebook and direct messages on Twitter to communicate with it, then we have no now. If people are literally breaking into Mar-a-Lago with thumb drives with malware on it, based on an invitation by a massage parlor owner. I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. But he's, I got to tell you, security is the first thing for me. And I'm going to close the border. You think I care about trade? Yeah, I care about trade. But trade doesn't matter as much as national security. I'm closing the border.
Then we're going to close the border. That's going to be it. Or we're going to close large sections of the border. Maybe not all of it. but it's the only way we're getting a response, and I'm totally ready to do it. And I will say this, many people want me to do it.
No one does.
Because we're being abused by a bad legal system that was put in by Democrats and that has to be changed. And it can be changed in 45 minutes.
Well, you have the majority.
If they want to change it.
Why didn't you?
Let's see what they do. Yes, Steve.
Do you worry about the impact on the U.S. economy by closing the border?
Sure, it's going to have a negative impact on the economy. It's one of the biggest trade deals in the world that we've just done with the USMCA.
Oh, that's
it's a very big trading partner.
It's
but
the
to me,
number one
trading
trading
is very
partner.
important. The borders are very important, but security is what is most important to me. I have to have security. This is what this gentleman is all about. To my right.
Oh my God.
We're going to have security in this country.
I'm
That's more
embarrassed.
important than trade. Hey, all you hear me talking about is trade. But let me just give you a little secret. Security is more important to me than trade. So we're going to have a strong border, or we're going to have a closed border. And, you know, when we close that border, we will stop hundreds of millions of dollars of drugs from coming in. Because tremendous amounts of drugs come through our southern border.
Cucumbers, too.
And so that's one of the benefits. So I'm totally prepared to do it. We're going to see what happens over the next few days.
That was yesterday. That was yesterday. Here's Mitch McConnell.
Closing down the border would have potentially catastrophic economic impact on our country, and I would hope we would not be doing that sort of thing.
He said the same thing on health care. Okay, we don't have a plan, is what it is. We just don't. I know he says he's got a plan. He just doesn't have a plan. And so we're not going to be dealing with health care.
Is there distance between you, President, on what he wants to do on health care and where you see the health care debate standing right now?
Yeah, not any longer. We had a good conversation yesterday afternoon, and I pointed out to him the Senate Republicans' view on dealing with comprehensive health care reform with the Democratic House of Representatives.
Oh, yeah, right.
Notice how the Republican guys pulled back the two senators there from him there. They don't want to be in that picture. Democrats were not quite as forgiving, however. Take a look.
Translation, they have no health care plan.
Now, it's just that simple. And I got news for you. Donald Trump knows it is that simple. Donald Trump knows he's going to lose West Virginia. Donald Trump probably understands by now he's going to lose Ohio. Michigan is gone because they closed down this auto plant. Ohio is gone because they closed down this auto plant. I mean, it's, you know, everything that they wanted to see shaken up, that they wanted to see changed. They said, well, you know, Hillary's the establishment, and she was. And we don't want the establishment anymore. We want something totally, totally different. Well, you got that. You got a con man, demagogue, liar who serves himself. Not before he serves you. He serves himself, and then he serves himself some more. He never serves you. It's like a bad dinner party. That's all I'm saying. It's like a really bad dinner party, okay, where you just stand in the foyer admiring their art collection, and they never guide you to a seat, right? They never even say, come on in. Rich people. They're very strange, I must say. They're very, very very interesting people. But they have no health care plan. And they're not going to close down the border because you're talking about $1.7 billion worth of trade every single day. And Donald Trump had said, oh, if we close, this is how stupid he is. Again, you know, we should play the game, lying or stupid, because I don't know which it is. It might be both. But he said just a few days ago, closing down the border would be profitable for the United States because Mexico has such a large trade deficit with the United States that if we close down the border, we would save money. Let that sink into your head for a minute. Okay, if we close down the border, we would save money because Mexico has a trade deficit with the United States, which means the United States exports slightly less than it imports from Mexico. But if you close the border, we're not going to be able to export anything. And nothing being exported equals nothing. He's nuts. He's nuts. And he does this because his base literally are racist. They hate people. They hate people of a certain skin tone. I don't know. You're right. Brett's grabbing his skin going, this is what they hate. You're right. They got an issue with melanin. They really do. They have a problem with melanin. It freaks them out. And then he said, yes, he said yesterday, the problem at the border, and I told you this yesterday, the problem at the border is we have judges, and we don't need any stinking judges. He just wants to use a machine gun on these people, okay, and that'll solve the problem. And then yesterday he also said, oh, well, Mexico, this is something you really need to know. Mexico is doing so much more. I just noticed that they've been apprehending people at their southern border who are coming from below them in Central America to Mexico. Can I just tell you, Mexico has always done that? And this is why he says, Mexico has the most stringent immigration laws. Yeah, you can't go into Mexico from Central America, period. He's just noticing that? Stupid or lying?
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
I hate to tell you, Puerto Rico, but you've thrown our budget a little out of whack because we've spent a lot of money on Puerto Rico, and that's fine. We've saved a lot of lives. If you look at every death is a horror, but if you look at a real catastrophe like Katrina.
Oh, my God.
And you look at the tremendous hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that died. You can be very proud of all of your people, all of our people working together. 16 versus literally thousands of people. You can be very proud. Everybody around this table and everybody watching can really be very proud of what's taken place in Puerto Rico.
Oh, my God. See what I mean? He's got a problem with melanin. He does. He has a problem with American citizens who happen to be living on an island called Puerto Rico. Hogan Gidley was on the TV over the weekend calling Puerto Rico that country. That country is our country. Just a fact. Just a fact. So stupid or lying, I don't know. But he sat there. That's when the hurricane first happened, 18 months ago, and Donald Trump went down there and threw paper towels at the people of Puerto Rico. Remember that?
Puerto Rico.
Yeah, and said 16 people died. Well, it turns out 3,000 American citizens died in that catastrophe called Maria. 3,000 people died on 9/11. Where is the response for Puerto Rico? He keeps on saying, there's another piece of information you need to have at your fingertips if you're going to argue with Cult 45 or Trump pansies, is to say to them that when Twitler tweets that $91 billion was given to Puerto Rico, that is a lie. That is not stupid. That is a lie. Puerto Rico got $11 billion so far in a hurricane. 91 billion is what's needed to repair Puerto Rico. They only got 11. And just so you know, Puerto Rico has a delegate in the House. She's a Republican, by the way. They have a delegate in the House, but she's not allowed to vote. And they need food stamps. And for Puerto Rico to get EBT cards sent to them, Ruth Bader Ginsburg just fell off. She's shut. Look, she's so upset. I'll hold her.
She's a tough broad, Randy. She can handle it.
RBG, we love you, baby. Here, we'll put you right there. But 91 bill is what they need. The EBT cards, you need Congress to vote. And Congress won't vote because there is nobody in Congress that represents Puerto Rico that has a vote. It's just very sick. It's just very strange. And yesterday he was complaining about Puerto Rico and, about windmills giving you cancer. It was just a very sick appearance yesterday. I was embarrassed for our country. When it comes right down to it, whether he's stupid or lying or some combination of both, it doesn't matter. He's embarrassing us, and he's literally putting us in harm's way because the entire world knows that we have a stooge as a president. We have a person who can be bought and paid for. We have a person who doesn't care about America. We have a person who doesn't care about Americans. We have a person who doesn't care about auto workers. He doesn't care about any of the economic issues that would happen if he closed the stupid border. The man just doesn't care about you. He doesn't care about anything except himself. And that is dangerous because the whole freaking world knows it, whether or not, the Deep South knows it, whether or not red states know. It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What matters is China knows it. What matters is Russia knows it. What matters is the Saudis know it. You see what I mean there? So, and I got to tell you, Rick Riley, this sports writer, he actually did another appearance on TV yesterday, and he was explaining why Donald Trump has a problem, personal problem, and why he's so vindictive with regard to
Puerto Rico.
You claim that his issues about golf, you said it correlates with his policy decisions. You think it might be why he holds a grudge against Puerto Rico?
Yes.
Explain.
People don't realize he went into a deal in Puerto Rico with a golf course there, and he made it worse. He said he was going to get him a tour stop. He never did. Play went down, and so they said, we're going to go bankrupt. He said, no, take out a loan with your government, and I promise this will work. So they took out this $32 million loan. Jeez. And then it didn't work after the first couple months of that loan. So the Trump boys just left and left them holding the bag. So when Puerto Rico happened, was it that different than what he did to them on the debt? No, he turns his back on people. He says he's going to pay you so much, he pays you 10 cents on a dollar to build his clubhouses, to build his course. He breaks so many promises. There's a course in Ireland. You know how he got us out of the climate change agreement, right?
Right.
Meanwhile, he owns this course in Ireland, and they're suing to put up a seawall to protect his course from climate change. Says it right in the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So when it helps him, he believes in climate change. When it doesn't, it's a hoax.
Oh! In fact, that is what he said yesterday. He said windmills cause cancer.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value. And they say the noise causes cancer.
Listen, I'm compelled to say that there's no science that proves that windmills.
Well, you know what this
cancer.
is about.
But it's actually related to golf, too.
Yes, he has this course in Aberdeen. I think you guys said Turnberry, but it's Aberdeen, Scotland. And he built this ridiculously expensive course, and he tore down the sand dunes, and he wanted to charge $300,000 for people to join it, and he couldn't get that. And then they started putting up these power windmills, and he sued the government, and he said they give you cancer and they kill birds. And in fact, they don't do anything. And he lost the lawsuit. And then he sued again, and he had to pay all the expenses. So he hates windmills, and now he's telling the world that they give you cancer.
Now, it's going to be funny one day, okay? And for some reason today it's tickling me, but it's dangerous, okay? He's a dangerous person to have all this power. Oh, my God. All right. Glenn in California.
Hi, Randy.
Hi,
Thanks
Glenn.
for taking my call.
Sure.
First-time caller, by the way, long-time listener. I just wanted to say Bill Barr is the wolf. They brought in the wolf.
From Pulp Fiction?
Yes.
That's 30 minutes away. I'll be there in 10.
We're in such deep trouble, but
we are.
You're such a truth teller. I just love you, and have been listening since the Air America days. And you actually took a picture of me and my sweetie at an Air America function in Scottsdale, Arizona, years ago.
Oh my God!
I love you ever since.
Well, thank you. I thank you.
You are a national treasure.
Thank you. So are you, Glenn. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for taking my call. That's all I had to say.
Thank you, Chris in Miami.
Hello, Randy. I've been waiting for a while. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm okay. Yes, thank you for waiting.
Listen, the reason why I wanted to chime in is because I wanted to give some remarks to your listeners out there about what Adam Schiff has been saying. Adam Schiff is a bright attorney, and he knows what he's talking about. I'm an attorney myself. And he made a very clear, subtle distinction about the impeachment process versus criminal process. He basically is saying that although Mueller may have concluded the evidence is insufficient to establish a conspiracy by a reasonable doubt,
With
That
the
does
government,
not-
with the Russian government.
Exactly. That is not dispositive of the question of impeachment. Why? And I'll give an explanation. Because the impeachment process does not have a legal standard of proof. In other words, a president can be impeached and removed based on evidence that's far less than the reasonable standard, doubt standard in criminal cases. So he's drawing that distinction, and it makes legal sense. That's why impeachment should not be off the table based on corrupt intent to collude with Russian agents. It's definitely not off the table.
Well,
You know,
collusion, as we all learned along the way, is not a legal term. There's no statute called collusion. There is conspiracy to defraud the United States. There's conspiracy to commit crime. There's conspiracy to commit murder, those kinds of things. And so while Mueller may not have said that, he could prove a conspiracy beyond a reasonable doubt with regard to, and you're a lawyer, so you know words matter, collusion or conspiracy with the Russian government doesn't mean that there's not a preponderance of the evidence or clear and convincing evidence.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's what he is saying.
Yeah.
And it's legally speaking, he is absolutely correct.
I know.
Now, what do I think the Democrats should do? They should hold off. Wait for the other investigations into his finances are complete.
That's what they're doing.
Yes, because that way, when the time comes, he does get impeached, it'll make it more difficult for the Republicans to turn away and ignore.
So that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi has been trying to say to the American people over and over again, is that they need the Mueller report, number one. Number two, they need to see his finances. Number three, they need his taxes. Number four, they need to look into the foundation. They need to look into the organization, et cetera, et cetera. Because once it becomes apparent that this man is a fraud and a criminal and he is ripe for cultivation, et cetera, the Republicans will have no choice but to join the Democrats, and that is her position. Now,
he's playing the long game. And she's
yes, it's the long game. Exactly right. Exactly right.